Good morning, everyone. Not used to saying morning. It's a little earlier than usual. But I have something a little different, so we're just going to mix it up all the way across the board today. So I watched this case a few weeks ago, and it's kind of stuck with me. And so I thought, let's watch it together. What this is, let's see. So this is a case where a group of friends were at a party. They happen to be fraternity brothers, and they get into a disagreement over proper procedures in regards to some of the fraternity stuff. And at the end of the night, one of the men ends up shooting the other one. And not only does he injure that person that he shot, but the bullet ricochets and injures somebody else too. So he is charged with, 1 count of aggravated battery, 2 counts of aggravated assault, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. So he has filed a motion for immunity under Georgia Code 16-3-24.2, which is basically saying that he acted in self-defense. So what this is his hearing for self-defense. And I find it super interesting on a couple different levels. One, I had no idea that fraternity stuff was beyond college. I mean, I know people have reunions and stuff like that, but this seems like hardcore, like they're brothers for life type of thing. And I was really wowed by like the level of dedication that they have to this fraternity. So that was kind of interesting. And also just the arguments made in the case itself. So we're going to hear his side of the story. Then we're going to hear from 2 witnesses. One of them is the second person who got shot, who was standing right there. And then the other person who was shot as well. So it's kind of really interesting to hear it from both sides. So let's get this party started. Where's the pups? There's a pup. They know pup.
And the source of
the other thing I forgot to mention is this is actually the district attorney from DeKalb County. The case itself is taking place in Fulton County. And DeKalb County is having to come and step in and try the case. And he's about to explain why. But this is the DeKalb County district attorney. But the judge in the hearing is taking place in Fulton County.
The conflict in this case, briefly on the facts, it's a shooting case. The defendant allegedly made statements to a witness who works for the Fulton County DA's office. Those are incriminating statements. That employee would become a material witness for the prosecution, thus the conflict.
Got it. And is that employee an attorney, a staff member, the DA?
It is an assistant DA.
Okay. Got it. And not a stranger to Mr. Thomas.
Not a stranger.
They know each other. Mr. Thomas allegedly said X, Y, and Z, statements that you'd want to use in your prosecution of the case or in this hearing, whenever it is, but that rose to the level where the Fulton DA's office concluded that just it was cleaner and wiser to say, we won't be involved with this.
That's correct, Judge.
Got it. Okay, great. I think you explained that before when we had a status hearing on Mr. Thomas's case. I just couldn't remember when my staff was asking, why are we having these DeKalb people here? Not that we mind. I had a few other cases I could use some help with. Great.
And we don't see the judge's face at all.
Where we are is the immunity motion. And in it, Mr. Thomas, through counsel, alleges that his shooting of Mr. Cooper and inadvertent shooting of Mr. Swain was all an instance of self-defense. And he properly invokes the relevant statutes within Title 16 that if I were to find that he were acting in self-defense and was sufficiently justified, he would be entitled to immunity from criminal prosecution. In other words, the case could not proceed. So the highest level of finding in Mr. Thomas's favor would be, we're done. The intermediate finding would be, I don't find that you're immune from prosecution, but you certainly would have a self-defense at trial, and we would move on. I don't think I could prohibit a self-defense at trial, even if the evidence were particularly unfavorable to the motion. But that's really what we're working through today, and if necessary into tomorrow, whether I find that the defense is proven by a preponderance that in shooting Mr. Cooper, and that it sounds like that bullet, if it was in fact one shot, that's what's set forth in the motion, somehow went through Mr. Cooper and additionally struck Mr. Swain. It was Mr. Cooper who is allegedly the threat and the basis for Mr. Thomas producing a handgun and firing the handgun. It was defending against the perceived use of deadly force or serious bodily injury, whatever might have come from Mr. Cooper. And Mr. Swain was there, again, just taking it from the pleadings, and the evidence will be what it is. Mr. Swain was actually trying to keep Mr. Cooper away from Mr. Thomas. He failed, and the cost of his failure was that he was shot as well. I'm not making any factual findings by having said what I said. That's actually just me parroting back what I read in the immunity motion. Ms. Foster, it is your side's burden, so I'm gonna have you call witnesses in a minute. Are there any procedural things we need to work through first?
Philip Thomas, Phillip.
So this is I believe it's doctor. I saw on several websites his Dr. Thomas, and this is actually the shooter. And welcome, Sergeant George, but I have seen your name before, so it is not your first time, but it might be your second.
Thomas, Thomas.
Shh.
Mr. Thomas, the chair you're sitting in does not have wheels. That's so witnesses don't roll off the witness stand, and we have a lawsuit. So it's kind of hard to move, but I need you to move it and you closer to the microphone so that we can all hear your important answers to the questions that are asked.
Yes, sir.
You ready, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Thomas.
Morning.
How are you today?
I'm okay.
So we're gonna get some basic background information about you first. How old are you?
53,
And where are you originally from?
Savannah.
Savannah. Okay. And how long have you been in the Metro Atlanta area?
27, 28 years.
And what brought you to Atlanta?
I was transferred in the military up at Dobbins Air Force Base, and I went back and also finished college.
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
And I also finished college,
And where did you finish college?
Morehouse College.
Okay, right here in Atlanta.
Yes, ma'am.
Already. And do you have children?
Yes, yes. Have 4
Girls, boys?
girls.
And prior to this, or what do you do for a living?
Currently unemployed.
And prior to being unemployed, what is it that you do?
I was associate athletics director at Morehouse College, the number 2 position in the department. And I was also a professor over at Spelman College.
And what did you teach at Spelman?
At Spelman College, I taught in the education department, educational psychology, intro to special ed, the history of education courses, undergrad.
And you said you taught at Morehouse as well?
No, I was just an associate AD there.
Okay, did you teach anywhere else?
Yes, Belhaven University. They out of Jackson, Mississippi.
You taught there at the same time you were doing these things, or that was a previous job?
No, I taught at the same time as an adjunct. It was an evening course.
Virtual, or you cruise on down to Jacksonville to teach that?
Virtual, sir.
So the judge jumps in all the time, asking questions and clarifying things, and is very interactive throughout the whole hearing, which is kind of unique to hear. And just so you know, the IT frat is kind of called your gamer group.
And I taught graduate courses there, organizational behavior, courses that fall in line under the degree of an MBA or MPA, public administration.
And in order to do that, you yourself have a master's too, correct?
I have 2 masters and a PhD.
And what is your master's in?
1 master's from Troy State. It's in public administration, MPA, and my other master's in education from Georgia State.
And what was your, I guess, topic or field dissertation in when you were getting your PhD?
Teachers' perception of inclusion in the classroom.
And you mentioned that you were in the military. What branch of the military were you in?
United States Air Force,
And how long were you in the military?
20 years,
And when did you retire?
2008.
So I'm going to take you to the incident, the alleged incident date of May 15th, 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember May 15th, 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do? How did your day start on May 15th, 2021?
Thank you.
What day? It's not critical, but what was that? A weekend day or a weekday? So Saturday?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So tell me how you started your Saturday.
Well, that morning, my grandson spent the night with me, so I took him back home. And Mr. Swain, along with Mr. Sylvester, called as a reminder that we was going to meet up with another colleague of ours that in the Shepherd Center. We was going to have a little lunch with him, and we was going to have a family and friends barbecue over at Mr. Swain's house. So around brunch time, mid-morning, close to 12, I want to say, I met up. I drove myself, and I met up with Thomas Sylvester, Chris Swain, Jamal Carter, and Darren Rice.
Okay, and I'm just gonna pause you right
Yeah.
there. When you say Mr. Swain, are you talking about Mr. Christopher Swain?
Yes, Christopher Swain.
Okay, so you and Mr. Christopher Swain have a relationship, or did you all have a relationship prior to May 15th, 2021?
Yes, we have a relationship.
And what did that relationship consist of?
He's a fraternity brother of mine. I pledged him.
When you say you pledged him, so that everybody understands.
Okay.
What does that mean?
We all in the same fraternity, and I was the dean of pledgees. So when he applied for membership in our initiation program, I was his dean.
What fraternity?
Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And so we've been friends since I pledged him, initiated him into our particular chapter of
When did you initiate him into your particular chapter?
2010.
So for 10 years, the incident was 2021. So for 11 years, you and Mr. Swain were friends.
Yeah, actually since 2009 that I knew him, and he applied for membership in 2010. But yes, but he was like a baby brother to me.
The person that they're talking about, Mr. Swain, it got really confusing. Took me a while to figure it out. This is the gentleman that owns the house where the party was at, and the one who was hit by the ricochet bullet while he was trying to mediate things. So he will testify as well. But Swain is the house owner, and they'll talk about him quite a bit.
Okay. When you say he was a baby brother, you all spent how much time together?
We were both in the education field, and we both was coaching. So a couple times a week over the years. At one point, he stayed with me. He didn't have no one to stay. He stayed with me. I took care of him like a little brother. You know, he driven my vehicles, had keys to my house. You know, had clothes in my house. He showered at my house. He stayed there from time to time.
So you'd say that you guys were very close?
Yeah, he's like my little brother. And mainly in age. I don't mean to say he's a child, but he's like my little brother.
Because of the age difference?
Yes,
between the two of you all?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, understandable. Okay, so you, Mr. Swain, Jamal Carter, you said Mr. Rice.
Yeah, Darren Rice and Thomas Sylvester.
Sylvester.
Yes.
You all go visit another, was it a fraternity brother?
Yes, another fraternity brother that was in a bad, nasty car accident, and he's in a wheelchair, trying to get himself back together health-wise. He's been in and out of the hospital for a couple of years. And we went to go have lunch with him, cheer him up.
And this was at the Shepherd Center.
Yes, sir. Boost his morale, things of that sort. And we stayed, I don't know, maybe an hour or two. Then we left and everyone went to Swain's house, Christopher Swain's house.
Would it have been fun if you did it correctly?
And why did you all go to Mr. Swain's house?
Who was having a family friends barbecue.
And when you say family,
Okay, so this is the thing that hung me up, and I'm sorry I keep stopping it. I promise I'll quit. But you guys tell me. So they went out to breakfast or lunch or whatever together somewhere else, and then they go back to the guy's house that's with them for a family and friends barbecue. I mean, generally when you're going to have a barbecue and have a bunch of people over your house, don't you like spend time getting ready at your house? Like, why would you go out to eat and then come back to your house to eat barbecue? I don't understand it. So you guys usually clarify for me when I don't understand something. So explain it to me.
and friends barbecue and meet. Is this a Omega Psi Phi function?
No. I've heard it was, but it was not. It was a family and friends. It was people there that was non-Greek as well as Greek. There was wives, girlfriends, children at this get together.
And when you say non-Greek, you mean people who are not in a fraternity or sorority? Correct?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
it's okay. I want everybody to understand what we're talking about. I get it.
Yes.
I want everybody else to understand.
I mean, other people there could have been in fraternities or sororities, but the event itself wasn't an Omega event or Omega and the Delta women can come or something like that. It was,
No.
these are friends. And it may be that we have a Greek tradition that we share, but it was friends of you and Mr. Swain and these other people.
Yes. Swain, I believe he knows just about everybody was there because it was
His house.
his
Okay.
get together. Yes, sir.
Okay, so around roughly what time did this friends and family barbecue take place?
It had already started, from my understanding, before we got there. So I'm assuming when we got there, the place was pretty packed. And I want to say we got there around 1 p.m. or so. I'm not exactly sure, but so people were already there when we arrived.
And I know you said you drove yourself,
Mhm.
but did you, Mr. Swain, and the other gentleman make it back to Mr. Swain's house at the same time?
I want to say within that same probably 30-minute window, I believe someone might have made a stop or whatever, but I went straight there.
Where in Fulton County is Mr. Swain's house?
Off Bankhead.
Off
And-
Bankhead?
Yes, sir. Going toward 285.
And for geographical reference, what is located near Mr. Swain's house?
There's a school across the street in I believe in Fulton County Library. Also,
Sorry, what schools across the street?
I don't know the name of it.
Okay, so you get to Mr. Swain's house, there's already people present at Mr. Swain's house. There's this barbecue that has begun. What do you do when you get to Mr. Swain's house?
Greeted some people that I knew there and chopped it up, talked. I was out on the driveway area, just talking, saw some people I haven't seen in a while, just chopping it up, talking.
The term you're using is chopping it up?
Yeah, I'm sorry, talking.
No, chopping is fine. I just wanted to know what words you were using.
Yeah, talking.
May use that someday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you're having conversation with people at the barbecue. Do you know everyone who's there?
No.
Okay, so you're talking to people that you do know.
Yes, ma'am.
Because this is roughly a year or so after the pandemic started, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so was this the first barbecue or first real major get together following the shutdown that COVID did to us?
Yes, ma'am.
So at what point, or was there ever a point where you came into contact with a Mr. Kendrick Cooper?
Yes, ma'am. A little while after I got there, I'm not exact sure of the time, but a little while after I got there, he made a comment in the middle of the driveway area where everybody had lawn chairs, a couple of picnic tables, that he was in town for something. I'm not sure what he was in town for, but he needed to see all of the 2021 line up and get good with him.
Okay.
Okay, I was gonna explain to Your Honor. Yes.
I mean, we're gonna break that down.
Yes,
So you
ma'am.
said-
Before we break it down, I think I know what a line is, but I'm going to want you to make it clear in the record.
Yes, sir.
Did you know Mr. Cooper, or was this a stranger to you? There's just this guy who says, I'm in town and I want the 2021s to line up and do their thing.
Yeah, he was a stranger to me. I never met him in my life.
This was the first time you'd encountered him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
So your first encounter with Mr. Cooper, he's from out of town, so he's an out of town bruh. And he's coming to this cookout, where there are other bruhs, because you all refer to yourselves as bruhs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's another bruh there, so he's there with the other bruhs that are there, and he says, I need to see all of 2021 lineup.
Yes.
So, did you all just bring out a new line of pledges, on May 15th?
So this is despite it being non-Greek, this guy is saying, I want to see the 20, I assume he's talking about Omegas lining up.
Yes.
And did you, so in response to Ms. Hawkins's question, were there a bunch of brand new pledges there?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And just to clarify the record, Mr. Cooper is not non-Greek, he is a member.
Yes,
of
he's a
Omega Psi
member,
Phi.
not my particular chapter, but he is a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity.
Okay. I figured since he wanted the 21s to line up.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so when, and then I believe I also heard you say they needed to line up to get good with me.
Yes.
And what does get good with me mean from your position?
I don't know how other fraternities or sororities, organizations do, but within our fraternity, getting good means a person wants to see what you know. It's in a historic format about the fraternity itself. And depending on honestly what region of the US you from, what HBC you might have went through or district, they want to question you. 2-3 questions, and sometimes it gets out of hand, but person wants to question you.
Would you consider that a challenge?
Yes, it's definitely a challenge.
A challenge like we're fighting, or a challenge as in I want you guys to impress me?
More so impress upon the person asking, but it's real easy to escalate into something.
Judge, I'm gonna object to speculation.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand. I'm not asking him to speculate what happened there, but in your experience with someone calling out new pledges to line up, and pledge may be the wrong term, it may be admittees, but the new folks to line up, has that always been a peaceful event or not? And if not, from your experience, not reading in books, but being there, why would it not be peaceful?
So I don't know if you noticed that, but he just objected to the judge. Yeah. I have learned so much already, and this is the second time I've watched it. Like, this is very enlightening. Just saying. But they are going to get to the good stuff very soon, I promise. In the meantime, we're learning quite a bit about the world of fraternities. But once they start getting into the drama, is drama. Oh, like a Manning TPO drama.
I've seen it go both ways, but mostly non-peaceful, because in my experience and in my eyes of what I've seen, we're talking about adults, and no one wants a manhood challenge like that. And sometimes people take offense to that, and that can get out of hand real quick.
So it becomes words, and then words can escalate, but it's not part of a tradition that telling people to line up and get good means someone's going to get punched in the face or paddled or something like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Cooper says everybody needs to line up, or 2021 this needs to line up and get good with me, what happens next?
I was asking, I was like, who is this guy right here? Because like I say, it was a family and friends cookout. And you had people with their children there. And I was standing next to one of my fraternity brothers. He had his 2-year-old daughter right there. I'm like, what is this guy? This is not what we do. This ain't the time or the place.
Okay, and what did you do after you inquired who this guy was?
Can I sidebar, Chief? Can I ask her a question or no?
Nope,
Okay,
nope, it flows the other way.
okay, yeah. sorry.
If you don't understand the question, you can say, I don't understand the question.
No,
I will say for the record, Your Honor, Mr. Thomas keeps looking at the door, and I think because people are entering and coming and going, there may be someone who shouldn't be in the courtroom that may have entered the courtroom.
Okay, well, Deputy Gordon does a good job of saying, hey, are you here to testify? And if they're here to testify, he has them leave. So I'm going to assume he continues his filtering role. And you stay focused, Mr. Thomas, on the questions and don't worry about what's going on in the background.
Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sure.
So I think my last question was, what happens or what do you do after you've inquired who this guy is?
I walked up to him and I say, bruh, I say, I don't know you, but this ain't what we do. And I say, but if it'll calm you down, I'll be your 21.
Okay, and when you say this ain't what we do, what did you mean by that?
You're not about to haze up these new initiates in front of everybody like this. It can get out of hand. And the initiates had just crossed, not even, well, approximately 30 days ago from that day. There was an April line of 2021.
Okay, so you approach Mr. Cooper and you're telling him that, hey, this isn't what we do. This is a family function. What happens next?
Well, he assumed when I say I'll be your 21, he assumed I was 21, 2021, the year. And he walked me like in a chummy way. He walked me from the middle of the patio area to like the end of the house where the barbecue grill was and the DJ booth, little DJ was set up. And he asked, I can't remember exactly.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
want you to explain, one, how he walked you. How did he walk you? What did he have? Did you walk on your own? How did he walk you?
Sure, you can use Ms. Hawkins as you, and you are Mr. Cooper, whatever helps you illustrate it.
Okay. When he's saying, I'll be your 21, is that it calm you down? He gave a little smirk on his face and he kind of put me in like a headlock to walk over, like about to ask me some questions. And we walked maybe 6 to 8 feet over, and that's where the barbecue grill and the DJ was set up in the back of the house, like on the grassy area.
Okay, how tall are you?
I'm 5'10", Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Cooper, was he taller than you, shorter than you? What's your recollection?
My recollection is he's taller.
As in, he towered over you, or he would have been a little bit taller? You said he put you in a headlock. That makes it sound like maybe he's 6'6", so he could get his arm around your neck like that.
I want to say maybe 6 foot. He was a little taller. Not
Okay.
that much. That makes sense. Yes,
Good
ma'am.
He
morning.
was taller than you.
Yes.
When he,
I kind of leaned down, just to get him out of in the middle. I followed along for a quick second to see what he was going to say. Then we got where we got near the barbecue grill. I'm sorry, I know you said get close. Near the barbecue grill and the DJ booth. And he asked me a question about the fraternity. I'm not sure what it was, but I just remember cutting him off. I said, to be honest, I'm not 2021. I'm 2002. I was the charter line of this chapter.
and when you say the charter line in this chapter, what chapter are you talking about?
I'm a member of within the fraternity Phi Kappa Kappa chapter. That's a historic military-based chapter. We are the Fort McPherson, Fort Gillem, but the bases have closed, but we are still chartered out of East Point.
And when you say you are the charter line, what does that mean?
in the history of the chapter, there's, of all the lines, my line was the first line to be initiated through that founding of that chapter.
So you are the founder of that chapter.
Yes, one of the founding members, yes, ma'am.
So you tell Mr. Cooper, hey, I'm not 2021, I'm actually the founding member of PKK. What happens next?
He got upset, started fussing. I think I blew him off at first, but he was getting really loud, this and that, and I
need you to
okay.
elaborate on it.
He was just getting loud. Excuse my French on it. He was like, "You fuck nigga, you this that, motherfucker, that's bullshit." Again, excuse my French.
Hey, if you're repeating what was said, that's what you need to do.
And people that were standing around kind of saw what was going on, so they kind of brushed it off, and we separated. We went on our separate ways. I was just looking at him sideways from that point.
So during this argument, or this, I won't say argument, but were you responding back to Mr. Cooper?
No.
So as he's yelling explicits, was he in your face?
No, when he started the yelling part, that's when I started removing myself. And then people came walking around to get between us. And I went back toward the lawn chair that I was sitting in.
And during that interaction with Mr. Cooper, was there ever a point where things got physical?
Not at that point, no.
So Mr. Cooper is upset, he's irate, he's yelling explicit. You remove yourself from the situation, you go back to your lawn chair. What happens after that?
Darryl Rice was sitting in the lawn chair next to me. We were just talking. We were just talking back and forth, and a scuffle broke out. They said it was a fight in the house. I'm like, who's fighting? And come to find out that was Mr. Cooper and Bruce Richardson, another chapter brother of mine, fought inside the house. And so people broke it up. He came back out. Then the DJ came to me a little while after that. The DJ asked me, he was like, "Hey, Phil," because evidently Mr. Cooper still had, he was still upset that he felt I fooled him or whatever by saying I was 21. So it was a lot of pockets of information to go around and people just getting into it with him and questioning me, like, what's going on? I didn't know what was going on because I don't know him. So the DJ asked me, he said, "Phil," the DJ name is, we call him DJ Bone.
DJ what?
Bone, B-O.
Bone.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. So he was like, "Phil, hey, Coop upset about earlier." He said like that, "Coop upset about earlier. Do you mind talking to him? Y'all can squash this, because if you calm down, then everybody else gonna calm down." And I remember telling the DJ, I said, "Listen, first and foremost, this is not a gang. I'm not gonna talk to, I'm a grandfather. I don't get out much. I'm not finna talk to another adult about behavior." And he said, "Phil, every time PKK has events, y'all always been good to me. You hire me to work to events. Do it for me. Coop's a good guy. You're a good guy. Personalities." And I didn't want to. I said, "Okay, I'll talk to him." So the DJ walked me back over where he was, and Coop happened to be there. And that's when I left from sitting with D. Rice. And D. Rice had just fixed me a drink. So I had a...
Was it bump? I thought he said bone. So if you pay attention to his story right now, do you know how they always say there's 3 versions to every story? The other person's going to tell the exact same story, but his perception of everything that happened is so radically different. It's super interesting to me. I don't know.
Plastic cup in my hand. And I walk over with the DJ. Coop's there. And I'm thinking, according to the DJ, Coops wants to talk. And he wants us to talk to squash any perceived beef, so everybody will calm down. And I'm like, first of all, I have 1 grandchild, not all these folk in here. I can't control what other people do or who we get into it with. So we go in that little area by the DJ booth and the grill, like I said earlier. Mr. Cooper is already standing there. It's a bunch of people around, but he's already standing there. And before we can even get to a conversation, I say, what's on your mind, good brother? And that's how I greet everybody. It's a term of endearment. What's on your mind, good brother? So he goes off, start cursing me out. Motherfucker, you lied to me. You know, I don't know who niggas think they are. I kill a nigga with my bare hands. And that was a comment he made.
I didn't object to hearsay, Judge, on that.
But I heard him say, oh, I'm sorry.
Stop.
I'm sorry.
Your Honor, I would say that it's not hearsay because it is the effect on the listener, and I have a case to cite for you.
You don't need to cite a case. So I'm going to allow it. I assume we're going to hear from Mr. Cooper. That doesn't make it not hearsay. But I don't, well, we'll see how this progresses. I understand the context of self-defense and whatnot. I think it is the effect on the listener as opposed to you're offering it for the truth of the matter asserted that Mr. Cooper routinely kills people with his bare hands.
Yes, Your Honor.
So with that understanding, I'll allow it in.
Yes.
Okay.
This-
Like I said, he was getting really angry and loud. And at that point, I told the DJ, I said, I'm done. I said,
There's actually 4 sides in this case because there's a third guy who got shot and he might get a paycheck out of this. So
I did you a favor. I tried, but I'm done. I wasn't gonna go back and forth with him. And I looked at him. I said, you know what? I don't really know you, but I'm gonna show you something called deference. And I had the cup in my hand. And I said, what are you drinking? I said, brother, just fix me a drink. I'm gonna fix you a drink. What are you drinking? He steps back and look at me. And he swings at me. And I had the cup because I was showing him. I said, what would you like to drink? And he punches me through the cup. So his fist and his cup slapped me in the face. So it was a drink that just was made. So it got all over me. He rushed me and grabbed me, and then people grabbed everybody and they're pulling us apart after he punched me. He pulled us apart. I don't know where he went at that point. I dried off, had a towel in my truck. I dried off and went back to Dara Rice where the lawn chair was. Then I made a phone call. I was like, who is that dude?
Before we go further, are you saying that Mr. Cooper, in swinging at you, caused your drink to hit you, or in his hand as he swung at you, he had his own drink?
No. Oh, go ahead, finish.
You tell me which one it was.
My drink, he punched my drink in my face.
Got
He
it.
swung at me, but my hand was in front of my face. So
Got it. So his hand hit your hand and your drink and everything hit you.
No, his hand hit my cup and my face.
Yeah.
And my drink. Yeah.
Okay.
So two things hit your face, your cup and his hand, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So when we was pulled apart, I dried off. Like I said, I had a towel in my truck. I had on a t-shirt, some sweatpants. And I was like, Dara asked me, was I okay? I said, yeah, man. But this, I was real perturbed about that. So
So
I
why not
remember
just leave?
saying bye to my brother, Ricky. Him and his daughter was leaving. His little 2-year-old that I was also sitting was. They left. And I said, who is this guy? And someone said, they called out the word Coop, like short for Cooper. I said, what chapter is he in? He said he from out of town. Where did he pledge? And someone said he pledged in the Douglasville chapter, and it's called Tri-Mu chapter. TRI space MU. Excuse me. Mu. Yes, there's 3 Mu's in Greek letter. Mu. I'm sorry. So
I don't know
at that
why
point, I
that's
said, wait a
funny.
minute, I have a colleague from college that's in that chapter. So I pulled my phone out and I called my colleague. His name is DeAndre Royals. We went to college together, played ball together at Morehouse College. So he answered. I said, Dre, what's going on? How you doing, brother? He said, man, I'm good, man. How you doing? It's been a minute. Small talk. So I said, hey, man, I'm at a family friend's barbecue at one of my Neo's house. Mr. Swain is my Neo. And I say, I just got into it with this guy. They say he from Tri-Mu.
It's a Neo.
DeAndre says back to me. He said, what's his name? So I said, hey, what's that guy named again like that? And they call him Coop. I said, Dre, they call him Coop. He said, yeah, that's my live 5. I said, okay, well, he's living it up around here. And I don't know how long we was on the phone together. but we chopped it up for a minute, talked more so for a minute, and
Did you say live 5?
Yeah.
That's what Mr. Royal said?
yes,
Okay. And what did you understand live 5 to mean?
he's all the way live. He's a firecracker.
Okay.
And live five refers to his position in his
Yeah.
line, correct?
Yes.
Meaning he's the 5th in the line.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. So I say.
Are all the 5s live 5, or he was explaining that this
No,
guy,
No, DeAndre told me he just a live 5.
there could be a dull 5 and a flat 5 and a boring 5, or that's just what they refer to. Like there's live, it just happens to rhyme, or is that just how you refer to the 5th?
No, he's considered a live 5. He's supposed to be a little firecracker, according to DeAndre Royals.
Okay.
So,
But the line's not by height? I mean, they line people up by firecracker rating?
no, they line people, traditionally, you're lined up by your height.
Okay.
Some chapters do it differently, but traditionally, you're lined up by your height.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry, what was
Isn't it a juice or
Okay.
something too? Like some
So,
orange
the
juice
live
something
five,
back in the day?
You and Mr. Royals are chopping it up, and at some point you all get off the phone.
Yes.
And what do you do once you've now, I guess, gotten more information about who Mr. Cooper is?
I sat back down in my lawn chair with Daryl Rice, and Daryl got ready to leave. When the incident happened with him punching a drink in my face, I guess it was around 3 o'clock. It was hot. I remember it was hot. It was around 3 o'clock. And I just carried on with the evening until everyone starts to leave. I'm guessing around 10:30 people starting to leave. And
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yes, ma'am.
So between 3 o'clock and 10 o'clock, you're doing what?
Chopping it up.
Yes, chopping up, socializing, Your Honor, socializing.
No other interactions with Mr. Cooper?
No, I don't recall talking to him no more, but it was said that,
You can only tell me.
okay, I don't remember talking to him no more that evening. Now, around 11 or so, people are starting to leave. I'm about to leave at this point. And me and Jamal was walking to my truck. So I had my
Jamal.
Carter.
Okay.
So I had my cell phone charger in the back of the cargo area of the truck, my wallet out in sweatpants, and had my weapon in the back of the truck in the towel that I dried off with. So I got,
I'm sorry.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
who is Jamal Carter to you?
Jamal Carter is another of my neos. Him and Mr. Swain were line brothers. I pledged both of them together. They was line brothers.
Meaning they pledged on the same line?
They pledged on the same line. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you're in the back of your truck, gathering your belongings?
Yes.
with Jamal.
Jamal came to the side of the truck and he was like, Swain was at my truck. He was,
Where at your truck?
y'all, am I stand up again?
Please. What kind of truck are we talking about?
It's a Mercedes GL 450.
Yeah,
And
that's
where
my
is your
truck.
truck parked in relation to where the front facility is?
Okay, if that desk right there was the driveway up into the patio, the back of the house, this is a street. And my truck was parked here on the street. So I gathered my things and I go to the front of my truck. Swain's talking to me. Carter asks Swain, would he like for me and him to help take out the trash and everything? Swain tells Jamal, Carter, he said, no, I'm good, guys. Appreciate the brothers.
Say no
I'm
to
talking to
those.
Swain. He was like, hey, man, let's go home. I talked to crew. Y'all two, he said the same thing he just said. He said, y'all two good brothers, you know, personality, conflict, whatever he was saying. And I was like, hey, man, I'm good. I'm good. So Jamal Carter says, hey, Cooper got into it with somebody else. I'm not thinking about it because there's no one around us. So Coops, Mr. Cooper, is running down the street toward my truck. So If this is the front of my truck on the driver's side door, I just cracked the door. I'm here.
Yeah, it's not a truck, it's an SUV. What? Is he okay? Don't worry about it. Austin will be fine. Take care of your pup. He has an SUV, not a truck. It's a Mercedes SUV. It is not a truck.
Mr. Swain.
Trucks are big and have big
He's
wheels.
like, had his foot on the curb. I'm on my truck is parked on the curb. We just chopping
Is
up.
your baby okay?
So Jamal Carter comes around. He said, I think he said, I'm gonna go get my plate. I'll be right back. He never went to go get the plate. He was coming around the truck. And Swain was like, nah, I appreciate it, brother. So I'll go just go
Thank
home.
you.
Cooper is running down the street toward my truck.
Okay, I'm gonna stop him so we can slow this part out.
Okay.
When you say he's running down the street, because your car is parked, is it parallel to the house? Is it perpendicular to the house? Is it,
It's parallel to the house.
okay, so, and is it facing towards the house or away from the house?
It's on the side of the house. If that's the house, the front door is at this, it's a corner house, first of all, it's a corner house. The front door is pointing at the street. And it's the corner house, so we on the street. There's another street here. The front door of the house is there, so the house is elongated this way. And the street, then my car is elongated also. So the house is here,
He's the
the
best.
street, in my car. I can stand in my car and see the kitchen. That makes sense.
Okay,
So, and from the stop sign, he's running from the stop sign, so maybe 200 feet or so, from the stop sign to where my truck is parked toward the back of the house.
okay, and at this point, where is Mr. Swain standing as it relates to you? As Cooper is running?
Swain, if I'm here, let's say my truck's here in the front door.
You be here and I'll be Swain.
Okay.
So I'll be ready to go.
You right there?
Okay.
He's in my personal space and we talking.
And Mr. Carter is coming around your truck towards you?
Yes. So Mr. Carter was on this side of the truck and he asked about the trash. And he saw Cooper running down the street. He just came to us and he was like, they go Coop, get into it with somebody else. But he was actually coming toward me. And when he came toward me, I'm still standing here with Mr. Swain, Chris Swain.
So Mr. Swain's back is to Mr. Cooper.
Yes, and then he turned, when Jamal made the comment, Swain turns.
Okay.
So he sees Mr. Cooper coming at me. He's coming at me. Yeah, like, go ahead, you got it.
Go ahead.
So he had one hand behind his back. He had one hand pointing at me. He said, motherfucker, I killed you.
Okay.
No,
Okay, slow down. You're saying it loud right now.
okay.
So he's running, how fast is he running? About,
It wasn't no job.
He's sprinting with a hand behind his back?
Not a sprint, but it's not a job. So I don't know the vernacular to say a percentage of the speed. It's not a full on, he's not running a 40-yard dash, I would say, but it's dark. So, and I couldn't see his hands. He pointed one hand in the air. So he gets, now there's, and I can't say honestly if it was a male or female, there was a shadow behind him, running behind him. Swain was here. So when Swain sees him, he said, man, let's get in the car. When Swain sees him, Swain turns around. And Swain jumped. Now in this hand, I had my cell phone, laptop. I had a long laptop charger that plugs in the car over there, like a house plug, so it charges faster. And that in his hand, and my key ring, I had my weapon in his hand. And I said, man, don't come in my personal space like that. And he stepped on here, killed me, and motherfucker this. Swain attempts to grab him. Can you come closer? So I can show you. This is my front of my truck. Swain turns, he's right here. So he's a barrier between.
This would be so much easier if we could like visualize what he's talking about. Because he's sitting there acting it out outside of the camera, which really sucks. They were having technical difficulties before it started, but it seems like this is what the judge likes, just on the witness, nothing on the attorneys or anything else. But he's basically talking about how the other gentleman who got shot came rushing at him while he was standing there talking to Swain. and he just jerked up and shot him. I think he'll explain it again.
When Mr. Cooper run up on me, my truck is here
Frame.
and Swain's here. Swain, he lunges at me, Swain, as he,
Hold on, sorry. Who is he? Is this a lot of?
Mr. Cooper lunged at me. Swain tries to grab Mr. Cooper. Can I grab him? He tried to grab Mr. Cooper and he slips and falls on the ground when he was lunging at me. And I shot Cooper. And I stepped back like this. My hand was waistline with my phone in this hand. My hand was waistline. And Swain fell on the ground. Then Cooper went down. And I'm not a medical expert or nothing like that, but the bullet evidently went through Cooper's side, ricocheted off the ground, and hit Swain in the leg. At that point, whoever was running behind him, I remember this, at this point, I remember a black female and a black male. There was some screams, they picked Cooper up, he got up, and they disappeared. Jamal said, Swain's been hit. I hear Swain moaning, so I get on the ground with Swain and check on him. I remember patting his body, I didn't see anything. And I was like, oh shit. So I saw the blood on the ground now. I said, it's blood. So I saw he was hitting the leg. And I yelled at Jamal. I said, call 911. The other people I heard in the background, call the ambulance, call the ambulance. I don't know how much time elapsed, but so much in my mind, it was taking too long. Another fraternity brother of ours was there, Johnny Green. I said, Johnny, pop the back of my truck. I'm taking Swain to the hospital. So Johnny pops the back of my truck. I said, Jamal, help me. So Jamal was laying the seats down and Johnny came around my truck and we picked Swain up. I remember wrapping his leg with that towel that I wiped off with me. And I wrapped his leg. Jamal jumped in the back with him to hold me. I jumped in my truck and made a beeline to Grady Hospital.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yes, sir.
From Bankhead to Grady Hospital.
Yes, sir.
So I want to go back to the moment where Mr. Cooper is running towards you and then when he lunges at you. So when he's running towards you, yelling, you said, motherfucker, I'll kill you.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
That he meant what he said. And that's based on what I heard and saw him say earlier throughout the day.
Were you afraid?
Yes,
Were you fearful?
yes,
Were you believing that he would cause harm to you?
yes.
And when he lunged at you, how did that make you feel?
Like either me or him, I don't know what he has. And I did not know what he had in his hand because I couldn't see his hand. And for the fact that I couldn't see his hand, it was behind his back. And the statements he made to me, that motherfucker, I'll kill you. I felt that's what his plan was. And again, that's my feeling because I don't know this gentleman from a bucket of paint. Never met him in my life. I don't know if he's playing or not playing because I don't play like that. And I don't know this person to assume nothing.
So, John, most of the beginning is just background. Not that you're going to hear this for another 20 minutes or so until you get there. Didn't think about that. Wow. So, his main argument is that he couldn't see his Coop's hand as he was rushing towards him, and he didn't know if he had a gun or not. So Georgia has basically stand your ground law, where you don't have to retreat, which is different. Some states actually have a duty to retreat. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago in the neighbor TikTok guy trial when he was in his garage. And I forgot what state it was, but that state actually, you have a duty to retreat. if it's at all possible. In Georgia, has the stand your ground law. You do not have to have a duty to retreat. If someone is attacking you, you have a legal right to defend yourself. So it all comes down to, did he have a reasonable belief that deadly force or great bodily harm was going to occur to him as this man was rushing him in the dark while they were intoxicated and feuding.
Do you recall anyone trying to, other than Swain, trying to stop him from getting to you?
I don't know exactly what the person behind that was chasing him trying to do, but it was definitely a person chasing him.
And you indicated that you had your gun in your hand at, like, I guess, waistline, correct?
Yeah, my left hand.
In your left hand?
Yes.
And you're able to shoot with your left hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a part of your training as a military, former military guy?
Yes, I can shoot left or right. And that was one of my first jobs in the military.
What was one of your first jobs?
I was a combat arms trainer. It was my job to train the fellow soldiers, pilots, security police.
And so waist length, you fire your gun at waist length. Waist length would be what, his stomach area?
Mhm.
Did you aim for his chest?
No,
Did you aim for his head?
no.
Did you aim or did you just,
Right.
he's right there, and so using your left hand, which is not your dominant hand, you pulled the trigger?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it wasn't that you were, hey, I see a belt buckle, I'm gonna try to hit that, and it just, you're shooting at this guy of whom you're afraid.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
I'll have to look up how that works in Georgia, but I do believe it is legal in most states to brandish a weapon while you're drinking. And John, I sent you a link if you want to jump on. You are more than welcome to. I think it's in your Twitter.
And how many shots do you fire?
Once.
And what happens when that one shot is fired? What happens to Cooper? I'm sorry.
He falls back. He falls back on the ground, and right next to Swain, Mr. Swain, that was already on the ground. Okay, he slipped. And that's when I saw a male and a female pick Cooper up, and they walked away. They walked into the dark, and I was still back in my truck with Swain.
So when Cooper fell back, he was no longer charging at you.
No.
Right? You can continue to tell us what happened once you got to the front.
When we got Swain in my truck, Jamal Carter rode with me. We got to Grady, but on the way to Grady, I called my attorney. And I was like, Denarius, listen.
Who's your attorney? Meaning at that time, who was it that you called?
Denarius heard.
So I found a discharging a firearm while under the
And
influence.
why exactly did you have an attorney?
Well, he's my attorney, but he's also my line brother.
Okay.
He's also my line brother, but he's my attorney. He's helped me out with legal issues in the past as far as like child support. But,
And line brother here would mean he's part of the founding line, charter line
yes,
of your chapter.
yes,
Not that he was on a line of your chapter at some point, but line brother would mean he's part of the charter line.
we play us together.
Okay,
I was a 4, he was a 2.
so he's really short.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so you get to Grady.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Well, he met me at Grady. I pull up in the emergency bay area where the ambulance pull up. I pull up with my hazard lights on. I asked Jamal Carter to go see about getting the physician and some nurses in the gurney. And I ran to the back to check on Swain while he was doing that. Saw him coming, and I was trying to flag an officer down. So at the time I was looking for an officer in the dock. One came out the double doors and said, "Excuse me, sir, you can't park here." I said, "Sir, I need to talk to you and some officers." The guy that went in, he said, "Well, you can park and go see him." I said, "No, it was a shooting that I'm a part of, and I need to talk to someone." So the police officer looked at me. He came over to speak to me. My truck was still running and everything. And at the time he walked to me, my attorney was walking over at the same time. He had just parked across the street and he was walking over. So I'm standing with my attorney and the police officer, and then 3 more police officers came over. I think throughout the conversation, total maybe 6. So they came and one of the gentlemen sidebar with my attorney heard for a few seconds, and he came back to me and he started asking me questions. And
He meaning your lawyer,
police officer
the police officer.
started asking me questions. My attorney turned to me. He said, "You can talk."
Okay.
And I told them what I just said just now. And they told me, they asked for permission to search my vehicle. I said, "Yes, you have my permission." And he went and he said, "Where's the gun?" I said, "The gun is right there." And I pointed at it. I'm about 6 feet away from my truck. Like I said, the truck was still running. My door was still open. I just pointed at it. He went and retrieved the gun, and he went into the back. I think I had some slippers or something, some shower shoes. I don't know. But the other officers came, took pictures and stuff like that. And
Okay, so you initiated contact with the police.
yes, ma'am.
You also drove Mr. Swain to the hospital.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't flee,
No.
and you indicated to officers that you were involved in a shooting
Yes, ma'am.
and that you needed help
Yes, ma'am.
for your friend,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Swain.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further at this time.
It may be that Mr.
Oh, I didn't know I still had a comment up. Sorry about that. Okay, so under permitless carry legislation enacted in 2022, Georgia law now generally authorizes any lawful weapons carrier to carry handguns openly or concealed in most public spaces without any permit required as of January 5th, 2023. I can't find anything specifically related to brandishing a firearm while intoxicated, although I did see the headline for an article that said Georgia was making it legal to brandish a firearm, because there are lots of states that have laws against brandishing a firearm unless you're doing so in self-defense. Brandishing meaning taking it out and aiming it at another person specifically. But I didn't see anything other than firing it while intoxicated as actually having some kind of repercussion. You take care of yourself, Pup Mom. We're sending you good vibes, good energy, positive energy to get you through your radiation. And we'll see you tomorrow, because this is a 5-hour trial.
Costello or Ms. Jackson have questions for you. I've got a couple more, Mr. Thomas. So as I'm recreating it in my head, you are standing next to the driver door of what you call your truck, your Mercedes, and Mr. Cooper is running towards you, not sprinting full out, somehow running in a way where one hand is behind his back. So one hand is pointing up or pointing towards you, and the other hand is mystery. He gets close enough that Mr. Swain is able to engage with him unsuccessfully because Mr. Swain slips sort of down to the ground. And you described a lunge. Was the lunge what Mr. Swain was intercepting, or was the lunge something that happened after Mr. Swain tried to stop Mr. Cooper and slid to the ground?
I'm not even sure it happened so fast. I remember the lunge, and it was like when Mr. Swain tried to stand between us and grab him.
Got it. So it was sort of all at the same time.
Yes, sir.
When I think of a lunge, I think of body and hands coming towards you. But you've described to me not knowing what's in Mr. Cooper's hands. When he lunged, did he somehow lunge with one hand and
Like this. He was pointing at me still, cussing.
okay, so he's lunging at you, about to make contact,
And then-
keeping one hand behind his back?
And Mr. Swain tried to hug like I did to Attorney Hawkins, try to grab him.
Okay,
He can secure both arms, like
Yep.
a bear hug type thing.
yep,
He tried to grab him, and during that process, that's when he slipped to the ground.
okay. And so Mr. Swain is going to the ground. What effect did Mr. Swain's attempt to bear hug stop Mr. Cooper have on Mr. Cooper? Did it stop him? Did it cause Mr. Cooper's hidden hand to appear? What happened as Swain slid down Mr. Cooper?
Nothing, because he slid down. So it didn't stop no progress, no forward motion or standstill or knock him down to the ground also. He just slipped like you grabbing air and nothing's there.
Okay. When we see ineffective tacklers do that in football games all the time. He did a bad job tackling.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have Ms. Hawkins come as close to you as she should if she is Mr. Cooper at the time you shot Mr. Cooper? Is she too far away? So you need to stand in wherever you are. So you are where you are. Don't move from there. And then have Ms.
Right there.
Okay, that close.
Yes.
Okay, and hold your arm out. And Mr. Costello, if you need to see what he's doing, you're welcome to stand up. No, don't move. Cooper doesn't move. In fact, Cooper falls down. I'm not going to make you fall down. So Ms. Hawkins is standing as close to you right now as you recall Mr. Cooper being when you shot him.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and your gun was in your left hand,
Yes, sir.
and you're sort of recreating a gun with your fingers. Where should Ms. Hawkins put her hands so they are where Mr. Cooper's hands were? Because you've talked about not knowing what was in his hands.
This hand is here. This hand.
That's
at
great,
that
Carrie.
point, but
That's like
I can
common to
see it
the
in the corner of my face.
Okay,
day, week.
all right. And then your gun was up on the left side and you shoot once.
Yes.
And Mr. Swain is somehow between the two of you on the ground?
Stay right here. When Swain slipped, I remember him slipping. I remember he was standing here when I was here.
Yeah.
It was chest to chest,
Mhm.
and he turned. When he slipped, he just fell right here.
Got it. So he's alongside Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then when you shot Mr. Cooper, he initially fell to the ground,
Yes, sir.
but he fell backwards and not forwards.
No, he did not fall forward. He just like dropped.
Okay. So he was alongside Mr. Swain.
Yes.
All right. And then he got whisked away by these unknown people. And then you tended to Mr. Swain.
Mr. Swain.
Okay. You guys can separate now. All right. Thank you. That's helpful. Mr. Costello?
Thank you, Judge.
I told you this was like
I took over.
WTF. This is still direct.
Good morning, Mr. Thomas.
Morning, sir.
My name is
Business
Michael
start across.
Costello. I'm one of the prosecutors that's assigned to this case. I have a couple of questions for you. If at any time I ask a question that's unclear or it's confusing, just let me know and I'll rephrase it for you.
Yes, sir.
I want to start out with a couple of, I think, some points of agreement. You were at a party on May 15th, 2021,
Yes, sir.
and that party was at 688 South Elizabeth Place.
Yeah, that sounds like the address.
And that's the address of
So it was a motion hearing as opposed to like an actual trial. Does that matter?
Christopher Swain's home.
I don't know those rules.
Yes, sir.
And you drove your car to this party
Yes, sir.
and you brought a handgun with you.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Act your age.
And you were at this party for several hours.
Yes, sir.
And there was alcohol at this party.
Yes, sir.
And you drank alcohol at this party.
Yes, sir.
And it's not in dispute that you fired your gun at this party.
Shh.
Oh, yes, sir.
And you fired it towards Kendrick Cooper.
Yes, sir.
And Christopher Swain was near Kendrick Cooper when you fired.
He was near me when Mr. Cooper came toward me. Swain was near me.
I'll rephrase it. When you
Yes, sir.
fired the round, Christopher Swain was near Kendrick Cooper.
Yes, sir.
And we're in
Can we get a
agreement you fired one
diagram?
shot.
Yes, sir.
Like
And
an
that one
MFP sketch?
shot struck Mr. Cooper.
Yes, sir.
and also struck Mr. Swain.
Yes, sir.
And you would also agree that a handgun is a firearm
Yes, sir.
and a firearm is a deadly weapon,
Yes, sir.
and that shooting a firearm at someone could lead them to receive an injury,
Yes, sir.
a violent injury,
Yes, sir.
and firing a handgun at someone is considered deadly force.
Objection. Yes, he's asking Mr. Thomas to make a legal conclusion.
Okay, you may want to ask it. You should probably ask it in a different way. I think as a matter of law, I need to find that a firearm is a deadly weapon and thus it is capable of inflicting deadly force on someone. So let's keep Mr. Thomas.
I'm muted. I pulled a mic. Is that not written into a law somewhere? Like, how is anyone going to conclude that a firearm is not a deadly weapon?
In the fact witness role as opposed to legal conclusion role.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Thomas, I'll transition a little bit into what happened at the party now. So at this party, you were a guest of Christopher Swain's,
Yes, sir.
and you had never met Kendra Cooper before,
No.
and you never had any prior confrontations with Mr. Cooper before May 15th, 2021.
That's correct.
But there was a confrontation between you and Mr. Cooper at this party,
Yes, sir.
and it was over fraternity rules.
No, sir.
I believe you testified on direct that he was, engaging members of the fraternity, and that may not be, maybe I'm paraphrasing it incorrectly, but it wasn't in accordance with what should have been going on.
No, he was out of line I felt he was out of line to make these guys, quote unquote, line up to get good with him. So it wasn't a fraternity thing per se, because our confrontation never got to that, because when I told him who I was, what my year was, it went totally left. So it never got to no fraternity questioning or nothing like that. No.
And
You need
in
to get good before
Mr.
you can go
Cooper
smoke.
engaging
Line
these
up.
other individuals that were fraternity brothers, he didn't fight any of those individuals. He didn't fight any of those
The
individuals.
2021 line,
Yes, he didn't fight any of those individuals.
I don't know that he did or not. I do know he was in a scuffle with another member of our particular chapter, a fight, but I don't know what other scuffles he might have been into that night. He got into it with a couple of people, but I don't know.
When Mr. Cooper directed the 21s to line up and make it good, whatever the phrase was, you shared with me, you were a little concerned about that because in your experience, having people line up and make it good can get kind of rough.
Yes.
Did it get rough or did it never happen? In other words, the 21s never in fact lined
At
up.
that particular time, Your Honor, no, they did not line up.
Okay.
And Kendrick Cooper didn't pull out any weapons on any of these 21s.
Not that I know of.
And I guess we'll call this the first encounter. You testified on direct that Mr. Cooper had you in some sort of headlock.
Depends on the quality of the course he took to get his license. I know my course was not educational at all. I did not learn a single thing from it. So, there's people who are not great trainers who are qualified to give you your certificate to get your CCO.
Mm-hmm.
But you could breathe.
Yes.
You could swallow.
Yes.
Did you feel any kind of pressure on your neck?
No.
So a headlock was a way, as I took it, to describe, he put his arm around you and it may have been kind of fake friendly, but it was, hey, we're gonna walk over here and talk.
Yes, Your Honor, exactly.
It wasn't and he's rubbing your forehead and poking your eyes or anything
No,
like
sir.
that.
No, Your
Okay.
Honor.
And you weren't injured during
Don't
this
forget
headlock.
angry face.
No, sir.
And you said that Mr. Cooper got loud. He was using explicit language, but you also said he was not in your face.
When the first encounter?
This is the first encounter, yes.
No, we were not chest to chest.
Yeah.
We
So
were-
this is an argument.
yes,
And during this argument, you never saw Mr. Cooper with any weapons,
no, sir.
I like it.
and it never turned physical.
I like learning.
This first encounter never
No,
turned
sir.
physical.
No, sir.
And you two were separated.
Yes, sir.
And at this point, you were not in fear of injury,
No, sir.
and you were not in fear for your life.
No, sir.
So sometime later during this party, there is another argument between you and Mr. Cooper. We'll call this the second encounter. And I believe here it's where you testified Mr. Cooper said he'd kill you.
He said, I'm a Marine. I can kill you with my bare hands.
So that's not what you said on direct.
Okay. I'm sorry I didn't say that on direct, but that's what he said.
So we've got now Marines and Air Force.
I don't think he knew anything about me. I didn't know he was in the Marines until he made that statement like that.
And this is the encounter that basically the DJ engineered. I'm not faulting him for tricking you or anything, but it's when DJ Bones, hey, let's see if we can, I think you used the term, squash this, squash the beef. And you said, all right, I'll go talk to the guy. It didn't squash so well.
Exactly, Your Honor.
And this argument escalates to a physical struggle.
Yes, sir.
And it's your assertion that Mr. Cooper punched you
Yes, he did.
and a drink that you were holding fell on Mr. Cooper.
No. It fell on me.
It fell on you. I'm sorry.
No, sir. You're fine.
At this point in time, did you have a firearm on your person?
No.
Not necessarily.
And during this struggle, you and Mr. Cooper, you're physically separate.
Yes, sir.
And at this point, you weren't in fear for injury, were you?
Rephrased. I don't.
After the second encounter
When
is
we were
over,
separated.
you're physically separated. You're not in fear of receiving injury at this point, are you?
It's questionable.
I don't know if it's necessarily military, but certain martial arts are, and I believe this applies to the Cooper. Talks about jujitsu or something like that when we get to that point. But once you get to a certain level in the martial arts, you receive a certain belt or whatever, you're actually a deadly weapon yourself, and you have a higher level of responsibility.
Because I didn't know this guy. And for him to get that belligerent like that in front of all those people, I started looking at him from the side of my eye.
But you're separated
Yes, we are.
and you're not injured at that point,
No.
and he's not anywhere near you.
No.
And you're not in
Being
fear
the
for your
potato
life at this
peeler.
point.
In the Marines.
I can't 100% say I'm not to you at this point.
But you didn't leave the party at this time.
No, sir, I did not.
Nobody took your car keys from you.
No, sir.
You had access to your car.
Yes, sir.
You could have driven your car.
Yes, sir.
You had your cell phone on you at the party.
For most of the party until I went to go plug it up.
You didn't call anybody for a ride.
No, sir.
You didn't call a taxi.
No, sir.
You didn't order an Uber.
No, sir.
You didn't order a Lyft.
No, sir.
You didn't walk away from the party.
No, sir.
You didn't get on a bus.
No, sir.
You didn't get on a train.
No, sir.
I think I got it. He stayed at the party 7 hours. We had second encounter, 7 hours pass. It's time to leave. And then we're standing by the truck.
So at some point during these 7 hours,
like
you
this
called
friend.
Mr. DeAndre Royals.
Yes, sir.
Would you say that was at about 9:00 p.m.?
No, it was earlier in that day. It was still daylight. No, it wasn't 9.
It was still daylight.
Yes.
Do you recall on that phone call You said, DeAndre, get your line brother Kendrick because I'm going to shoot his ass.
No.
You've known Mr. Royals for years.
Yes, sir.
Did you graduate college with him?
We graduated from the same college, different years.
Thank you for
Yes,
clarifying
sir.
that.
Yes, sir.
He's a friend of yours.
He's a colleague.
During that call, did Mr. Royals tell you to calm down?
No, sir. I don't recall that.
And you still stayed at the party?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to move ahead to the third encounter. Would you say that's at about 11:30 p.m.?
Around 11 or so. Yes, sir. Something like that. I don't know the exact time.
On direct, you said that you saw Kendrick Cooper running at you. Did you know that he was leaving the party?
At that exact moment, no, I did not.
Did you see him in a car at all?
He was running from a car. I didn't see him in a car. I saw him running from a car.
So you didn't see him get out of a car?
No.
It's a Dr. Seuss book, right? The places you will go on a boat, on a train.
Can you walk me through at what point you armed yourself with the handgun?
May I stand up?
Sure.
Well, I don't need to stand up. When I, like I said, when we were leaving, I went to the back of my truck and I got my phone charger out along with the long cord. My gun was in the back. I grabbed my gun and I walked to the front of my car because I'm licensed to carry and I keep my gun in the car all the time since my military career in different states.
So why, your gun was in your car, just happened to be in the back. Why did you move it from the back to the front?
I'm about to drive.
So you want it near you.
Yes.
It's not helpful to have it way in the back. Okay.
So that's
So
how
why was it
came
way in the
be
back to begin
on
with?
me.
So you didn't arm yourself after the first encounter. You didn't arm yourself after the second encounter. So it was only as you
Was
were
getting ready to
getting ready to leave.
Yes, sir.
Do you always arm yourself before you get in the car?
I don't understand the question.
Every time you get in a car,
Yeah,
you arm yourself.
I take my weapon is used 99.9% of the time. My weapon is in my car or one of my vehicles. Yes.
Is it your typical practice when you get in the car to put the firearm on your hip or in a holster?
No. When I'm in my car, my gun is one or two places. It's in under the seat where I can get to it, or it's in my glove box. I don't own a holster. I don't carry it out in the public. It's in my vehicle or in my home.
Why was it in the back of the truck to begin with? And why wasn't it already under the seat or in the glove box?
Because someone breaking my car, they won't be able to get my weapon because it's in the back. It's kind of like hidden. They won't be able to get my weapon. They break in the car. This is no disrespect. This is Atlanta.
No, I know. And people leaving guns in car are irresponsible people, especially when it's in the center console, because that's the first place people look. So you had, upon arriving at Mr. Swain's, moved the gun to the back so that if someone punched your window and looked around, they might get some change, but they don't find the gun unless they're going away in the back.
My gun and my wallet was in the back.
Okay.
So you typically don't arm yourself when you get in a car, but you did on May 15th, 2021.
I didn't arm myself. I took my wallet that was in the back and my gun. And I brought it back to the front because I was getting ready to leave. I didn't arm myself. I took my gun from the back, grabbed my wallet. I grabbed my cell phone and my laptop charger, and I brought it to the front of the car where I was getting in.
But that's not your typical practice.
No, sir.
And you testified on direct that you saw Cooper running from a stop sign towards you. And that was at about, I believe you said 200 feet away.
Approximately, yes.
At that point, you didn't get in your car
No, sir.
and you didn't attempt to leave the area,
No, sir.
despite him being 200 feet away.
Yes, sir.
And I understand that you said his hand was behind his back and he had one hand pointing at you
Yes, sir.
and he said, "Motherfucker, I'll kill you."
Seriously? Why do I keep muting myself? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Ah! I swore I'd never do that. Okay, real quick. I'll say it again. So if you're leaving to go get something and then you're coming back, you're showing your intention. So Mr. Phillips is currently only charged with aggravated battery and assault. Had he left and come back, that charge could have been elevated to attempted murder, because when you're shooting someone, what other intention can you possibly have other than murdering them? So you would yeah, I need a buzzer or something, like somebody can like zap me like a dog shot collar, or one of you guys can just press the button and be like, dude, stop being an idiot. But the dogs keep freaking barking, so I got to keep muting myself because I don't know what's going on, but there's some squeaky noise somewhere like in the world outside, and they're gonna get it. Sounds like a dead animal.
Or some variation thereof.
Yes, sir.
You said Christopher Swain was near you.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Mr. Swain, he
Good
wasn't
mess.
panicked, was he?
I'm not sure if he was panicked or not. He was something that he actually tried to stop Cooper. So he felt something, I guess.
And you didn't hear anyone say, "Gun."
No, sir.
And when Mr. Cooper was running at you, did he have any brass knuckles on that you could see?
No, sir. I couldn't see his hand.
You can see one of his hands, the hands you saw.
No, I did not see any brass knuckles, sir.
Did you see him with a knife? Did
No, sir.
you see him with a gun?
No, sir.
right?
So he was unarmed.
I don't know.
And did you see Mr. Swain with any weapons?
No, sir.
Now, I think Judge did a good job before of breaking down this lunge. When you said Mr. Cooper lunged at you, it's your assertion that I think when you demonstrated it with Miss Hawkins, so the record's clear.
Yes, sir.
Miss Hawkins' left hand was behind her back, and her right hand was up.
Yes, sir.
And that was your accurate recollection of how Cooper was when he was lunging towards you.
Yes, sir.
Was he bent forward at all with his head towards you?
No, sir.
And his left arm remained behind his back throughout this entire lunge.
Yes, sir.
And you said that he got about 2 feet away from you. That was from when Miss Hawkins was standing in front of you just a few moments ago.
Within 2 feet.
So now after the shooting, you transported Mr. Swain to Grady Hospital.
Yes, sir.
And at Grady,
I think it's also a PSA about don't get into petty fights with people at barbecues. If you do, just walk away and leave. And if you're not going to walk away, don't ever take your gun out when you've been drinking. Like, don't take your gun with you if you're planning on drinking. And don't get in your car to drive home if you've been drinking. I mean, there's so many wrongs in this whole scenario on both sides. I'm not just saying just him.
you gave statements to Atlanta police officers, correct?
Yes, sir.
You willingly gave those statements?
Everywhere.
Yes, sir.
You weren't threatened or coerced?
No, sir.
Nobody offered you anything in exchange for a statement?
No, sir.
So they were freely and voluntarily made?
Yes, sir.
It sounds like in addition to that, they were made after you had an opportunity to consult with counsel. Not these lawyers, but Mr. Hurd and you had a discussion. And I don't want you to share with me anything he told you, but it was after you spoke with Mr. Hurd, and I think you said he told you go ahead and do it, that you agreed to speak with the officers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
So do you recall giving a statement to Officer York before any attorneys arrived on scene?
No, sir.
So you don't recall making a statement that Cooper was popping off at the mouth and directed towards you, "I'll kill you"?
The statement that I recall was made to the officers while my attorney was standing with me Now, I did make a statement that said he was gonna kill me, but I don't recall Officer York or me, him sidebarring, no.
Do you recall the names of any of the officers?
No, honestly, Your Honor, I don't know the names of none of the
Sure.
officers.
So we could have had an Officer York there. Could have been Officer Jones or
Yes.
McBurney or Thomas or
Yes, it could have been.
Foster.
Yes, it could have
Okay.
been.
And Your Honor, it appears that we are transitioning from an immunity motion to a Jackson Deno hearing, and I think that this is the inappropriate time to do that.
Well, two things. I think we are very efficiently killing two birds with one stone, especially given the fact that you withdrew your motion to suppress the statement. We may well have made clear that the requirements of Jackson v. Deno were met. But irrespective of that, I think in the same way that it was appropriate for you to explore with your client, and I think your question was along the lines of, did you tell the police the same thing you told us? Or at least that was your client's answer, that Mr. Costello can explore with your client what he thinks the record shows he told the police in case there are inconsistencies, because that will go to this witness's credibility, which is about 95% of the immunity motion. So I'm going to allow him to explore it. I don't want us to get into 6 days later what happened unless it's relevant to credibility of this witness.
All right, real quick. Here's your lesson for the day, and John will probably do a whole series on this at some point in time. But Jackson Deno hearings is from Jackson v. Deno, which was a 1964 case that was heard by the Supreme Court. And basically, it's a defendant has a constitutional right to a fair hearing and reliable determination of the voluntariness of a confession not influenced by its truth or falsity. So making sure that his confession was given voluntarily and not coerced in any way. And I'm sure John can add a lot more to that when he does his
Okay, I'll cross that bridge when
History
we
of
get there,
it.
because I think there was something that was getting ready to happen, but
Okay.
I'll cross that bridge when we
All
get
right. And continue to object if we're hitting a bridge you're worried about. The bridge of, hey, this seems like Jackson Deno. I agree, but great. Let's check that box because we're going to need to cross that bridge if this goes to trial in a relatively informal way because you withdrew your motion. If it's a bridge of irrelevance or hearsay or something like that, keep objecting.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. So, Mr. Thomas, you know, if you made a statement to Officer York at Grady Hospital on May 16th of 2021, you wouldn't recall giving a statement where you never said anything to the officer about seeing the defendant's hand behind his back.
No, I don't recall that.
And Judge, can I approach the witness?
You may. Both sides can approach witnesses unless you hear me say, don't do that anymore.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Thomas, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Number 1.
Yes, sir.
It is a body camera from Officer York. It contains a statement that you made to him on May 16th of 2021 at 80 Jesse Hill Jr. Drive.
Okay.
If you had an opportunity to explain why you, or I'd like to actually just give you the opportunity to explain why your testimony today that you don't remember giving a statement or you don't remember giving a statement about not seeing a hand behind his back for the court, because it's my assertion, I believe you omitted that in your first statement to police.
I remember talking to police officers at Grady. I don't remember the exact words, but I don't remember also telling what the macro of the conversation was with me and the officers. I spoke to about 3 or 4 officers that night. I don't know what's the macro of the conversation, verbatim, verbiage.
And you did give a second statement to a group of officers. That'd be Officers Vickers, Officers York, and Officer Barnett. During this statement, you said Cooper rushed you and said, "I'll kill you." Do you remember giving that statement at all?
day.
Yeah, don't know
Perfect.
the officers, but I remember it was a group of officers, about 5 or 6 throughout that night at Grady in that parking lot.
And do you remember demonstrating for those officers what Cooper did prior to you shooting him?
demonstrating? Like
Yeah, similar to how a judge had you demonstrate for the court.
Not exactly.
So you wouldn't remember demonstrating that Cooper's hand was down at his side when he rushed you?
No, I don't remember.
And I'm just going to approach and show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 2 is
Yes.
also, it's
Of
a
course.
body camera of Officer Vickers where Officer Barnett is present.
Okay.
And, you don't recall demonstrating for officers that when you were rushed, Cooper's hand was down at his side.
No, sir.
And I just want to give you an opportunity to explain maybe any inconsistencies
I
from
don't-
today based on
right.
that statement back then.
And I appreciate that, but I don't recall the ergonomics of displaying how Mr. Cooper was standing or where was his hands. I don't recall that. But I do remember speaking to multiple officers.
You touched a little bit on direct about your military training and experience. So you're familiar, or how much training have you had hours wise in firearms training?
I couldn't give you an exact number.
So you said you did 20 years in the military?
Yes, well, at a minimum, you yearly go to firearms training at a minimum.
And roughly how many hours is that one yearly qualification you may
At a
need to do?
minimum of an airman, we 8-hour range day.
So over the course of 20 years, at a minimum, you would have 160 hours of firearms training.
Okay.
And during those 160 hours of training, you've learned how guns work.
Yes, sir.
And you've learned that when you point a firearm at something and you pull the trigger, a round discharges and goes in the direction of the muzzle of the firearm.
You're correct. Yes, sir.
And in your training, are you given specific parameters of when you're allowed to point a firearm at something?
Yes, sir.
And when would be an appropriate situation to do that?
My military training is when you're in defense of yourself, you're in defense of government property, such as I work the flight line, aircraft, or classified information.
You can shoot someone to keep them away from classified information?
Certain scenarios, yes, Your Honor.
Huh.
Well, that's good.
Okay, well, that's a new one for me. Huh. Stay away from those documents. So Georgia law actually says defense of yourself or someone else too.
To know.
Yeah,
Certain scenarios, not
could have gotten dangerous down in Florida.
And when you say to protect yourself, is that from somebody punching you in the face?
it doesn't itemize a scenario, sir, but to protect oneself from bodily harm. So it doesn't itemize scenarios of protection.
Now, I also think you testified about this on direct, so please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
But did you say that you've assisted in training police in the use of firearms?
Yes. As far as marksmanship, my first 2 years in the military, I was combat arms training and maintenance. So we ran pretty much the base ranges wherever you were stationed. You ran the range. You did purchase orders for weapons, and you kept everybody that was TDY applicable or that would go to a foreign country or war. You keep everybody. Everybody must be certified. Some get certified biannually. Some get certified annually. So we ran the range. So every day on the ranges, you're going to have a group, flight, squadron of troops come in to get their yearly training. So yes.
And when you were involved in this aspect of training, did you teach officers about when they're allowed to use deadly force or force to
No.
effect an arrest or something similar?
No.
It's Georgia.
You testified on direct that when you got to Grady, you called an attorney.
On my way to Grady, sir. Yes, sir.
Way to Grady.
Yes, sir.
Why did you do that?
No disrespect to you, but for common sense, something had just happened, tragic, and I was involved, and I wanted instantly to clear my name, but also once I get down there, I knew I was going to try to talk to someone and explain what happened, and just in case I was arrested, I needed someone to represent me and to protect me and to be an advocate for me.
I believe you mentioned on direct that some of the things Mr. Cooper was doing, it wasn't the time or the place for it, but it was the time or place to bring out a gun.
I was transitioning from the back of my truck to the front of my truck. It would, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get my verbiage right to respond.
That's okay. Take your time.
It wasn't an appropriate time or inappropriate time. I was transitioning my personal belongings from the back of my truck to the front.
So Georgia law constitutes the justification of use of force. A person is justified in threatening or using force against another when they reasonably believe that such threat or force is necessary to defend him or herself or a third person against others' imminent use of unlawful force. So that is the actual verbiage for the Georgia law. And with that, I am going to have to say goodbye for today because I have other obligations, but we are about a quarter of the way through, I believe. So we will finish this up, tomorrow and the next day. So I will try and get on about the same time tomorrow with part 2, and then I will see you after that with part 3. So I hope everyone has a fabulous afternoon. Thank you again for all of your support. I love you all. You're amazing. Have a great day.